if you want to start taping it.
I did. You're on.
Okay. Well, good morning, Washington County. You're listening to your local radio station, WMOA, and it's now time for the 11th hour. And certainly this is a critical time for those of us around the world and here close to home in Washington County. And I'm Hilles Hughes with the Washington County Behavioral Health Board. And with me today, I have Doug Pfeifer, who's the CEO of Life and Purpose Behavioral Health. Welcome, Doug.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here.
So interestingly enough, as we all are doing things more virtually, normally I would be taping this on my phone and we would be seated next to one another using my feature on my phone. And because we can't do that because of social distancing, we're now doing this via Zoom. So this is an experiment, and I know a lot of people out there can relate to experimenting with technology, correct?
Oh, absolutely. We're in it with Ohio. So, but yeah, we're getting pretty good over it with it over here because of all the telehealth that we're doing. So we're becoming pretty good. So,
well, let's talk about, and I know that there isn't really a typical day right now in your agency, but talk to me a little bit about what was a typical day and what has been a more typical day in terms of just the transformation and the evolution.
Yeah, I mean, our goal, I think, has been to try to make our day as typical as it has been, but just adjusting kind of what we're doing. But obviously, I mean, our typical day involved everything being in person. So, I mean, our parking lot would be packed with cars because we have, 10 or so therapists, case managers, admin team, all here trying to kind of carry out, what we do best, which is to help others with their mental health and, and addiction needs. And so that has transformed to a pretty empty parking lot, but we're still busy. We're still seeing clients, but it's either by phone or on video. So our front desk have actually different responsibilities. They're calling all our clients saying, are you comfortable doing this online and do you have access to Wi-Fi? And so we've had to really kind of go to all our clients and say, do you have this capability? And if you do, are you willing to do it this way? And, and so we've actually seen some good success. Even some of our groups, like our intensive outpatients, are now all happening on video. So it's, groups of faces on a computer screen talking about, the same stuff. So it's been interesting.
So when you kind of are reflecting on those changes, what are some of the negatives, the challenges that you're still trying to overcome and the obstacles, but then what are some of the important and valuable lessons?
Well, the difficulty is that I don't think that we're reaching as many as that we normally would. Our success isn't going to be as good as if people could come in person, because some people just aren't there yet in regards to comfortability. But we were already kind of in the virtual world. We did some telehealth with our child psychiatrist, and we were doing some counseling through another program that we were doing. So it's forced us to kind of really get into it and really go full force with it. And, we're finding that there might be need for it when this all dies down, that we're going to do more telehealth than we ever have before. A lot of our other programs should go back to normal, being in person, but I figure like we're going to use this more effectively. What do we do when, hey, we could actually probably reach more people. Because of that, so people have transportation issues and things like that we'll be able to, all our therapists are going to be very well trained in being able to do it over the computer. And I think,
well, and I'm glad you mentioned the therapist, because it is double-sided, right? I mean, there are challenges for the clients, but then there's also challenges for the workforce, because some of your staff are at home with children, right? I mean, they're trying to.
We've moved people. We haven't mandated it yet. We are an essential business, so we don't want to mandate that they work from home, but we have definitely said, if you want to work from home, if this is something that you feel like you need to do, we'll allow it. But under these kind of criteria. You have to have uninterrupted time. You have to have secure Wi-Fi. You have to have these things in place so that we can make sure that we're delivering a HIPAA compliant, effective, attentive session with our clients. I mean, we don't want our therapist having to tend to their dog or their kids while trying to tend to the client. That we want to be, there has to be a way to where we can separate those two. So someone, we have to make sure that those things can, play out, because the last thing we want is clients to feel that they're not getting our full attention. So
right. So in terms of just noticing any changes with this whole traumatic experience that people are facing, and how that's surfacing in your clients, and also perhaps how that's affecting supervision of your therapists.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a very unpredictable time. It's a time that we weren't really necessarily prepared for to the extent. So yeah, my therapists have to compartmentalize. They have their own concerns about the virus, and they have to put those aside to help the clients that they serve. Our clients, I think we're going to find more people that maybe didn't really need therapy, needing therapy now because it's upended their life. It's created a change in their life that they're having trouble dealing with. And so we were actually thinking, we need to reach out and say, we're not saying long-term therapy with us, but if you need support and you need help, reach out to us, because we'll be here for you. Because we realize that those changes, you weren't prepared for, and we're not necessarily always prepared to cope with this big, drastic stress. So.
Well, and you used to provide a walk-in clinic. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now to kind of respond to the crisis that we're facing.
Right. So originally, before this crisis, Monday through Friday in our Marietta office on Colgate, we would do a walk-in clinic where a client or not a client, if they were needing to talk to somebody, really struggling and just needing to kind of get that support that day, they could come to our office and meet with one of our clinicians. And typically, we've never really had a situation where we couldn't meet with somebody that day. So it was a really kind of good opportunity for our clients. Well, so we can't do that now in person. So we decided to create a virtual walk-in clinic. So same reasons, if people are struggling, they need to talk to somebody, they're having a hard time, they can call us and we get their information, their email address, so we can set up a Zoom link, and then our therapist within an hour or probably less is reaching out and having a session with them and helping them through that. And that's been nice, because if they are a client, we can just continue with the same, funding sources. But if they're not, the Behavioral Health Board has been very generous in being able to say, hey, that's a good use of, the funds to kind of support those people in need. So,
so Doug, what number would they call then in order to take advantage of that?
They would call our main office number. So that's 740-376-0930. And so they'll press 1, I think, when they when they get the recording that comes on when they call, and then they'll talk to our receptionist, and then they'll set us up. They'll get the information to, who they need to get it to, and we'll set it up from there.
That's certainly an important number. Can you repeat that number one more time?
Certainly, 740-376-0930. And I know we've had at least one. I was in the office with one of my colleagues, and we had one yesterday. So people, it's starting to kind of pick up, and people are starting to use it. So we're excited about that. We have the availability of people to be able to provide that. So I think I encourage, I think that's a message that other people are giving out, is take care of your mental health during this time. It's important.
Well, and I know I was able to participate in a call that you did with some teachers on Monday. And I think we have just a little bit of time for you to talk a little bit about sort of how the brain reacts during a traumatic situation. And maybe some of the listening audience can relate to some of that information and put some of that into a positive way in their course of their daily lives.
Sure, sure. Well, and I think, one of the big kind of walkaways that we talked about at that training or at the meeting with the preschool teachers was that, stress isn't inherently bad. So, we, for many years, we were told stress is bad. You got to avoid it. It's going to, cause all these problems. But in reality, we need stress. Stress actually helps us grow and learn and everything like that. But when stress is severe and unpredictable and prolonged, it creates vulnerability in our brain, in our nervous system, and actually what it'll do is it'll make us more sensitized to things in our experience that makes it harder for us to cope. So it leads to more of those unhealthy ways of coping because we're not able to handle it because we're becoming vulnerable to stress. But if you have stress in a predictable, moderate, and controlled way, you can actually build resilience, or what we would call tolerance, to stress. And so we're able to, if we do this in a patterned and repetitive way, we can actually build strength and tolerance of stress in our environment, which means we can handle more. And so this virus has been obviously severely unpredictable, at least for the common person. And it is severe. I mean, and it is definitely prolonged. I mean, we're not sure when the end is in sight. And so that's been hard because if we don't know what's going on or when it's going to end, that is really hard to deal with. So our recommendations and recommendations of other experts out there is to try to make your unpredictable stress more predictable. So scheduling, when you kind of get exposed to these types of stressors. So limiting your social media, watching the news at, certain times of the day, when, okay, I'm going to watch it in the morning and then that's the only time in the day I'm going to watch it. Or only watch one press conference, don't watch all of them. And, and then in between those kind of scheduled, predictable stressors, you do things that are healthy for you, regulating, go for walks, go outside. It's a beautiful day outside. Obviously with your social distancing, but your physical distancing, but, doing things that are healthy for you. Connecting with other people, like through video technology, FaceTime, things like that, I think are all important. One of the difficulty is, and I'm not the one who came up with this, but the idea of calling it social distancing is misleading because we're not trying to social distance, we're trying to physical distance. And if we social distance, that's actually really bad for us because we're social beings and our brain thrives when we have connection. And so if we take that connection away, that's gonna, we're gonna have some damaging, long-lasting problems. So I think we're working with groups and teachers and people to find ways to stay connected. I was on a call this morning with that same group, and they were telling me about they did their little preschool class on Zoom, and read a book and did a song, and I think it's just amazing, kind of the creativity and the things that people are doing. That it's been really exciting. So.
Well, and I would echo that. Today I woke up and on my phone, someone had texted me a poem about their experience relating to this crisis and the pandemic. And, we're going to post that on our Facebook site, to encourage people to share and express how they're feeling. And that sometimes encourages other people to do the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And seeing that, we see exposed, and can be traumatizing for us. We're exposed to all the bad things, and we're exposed to all the negatives in life, and that's going to have an effect on our brain, and we're going to end up processing everything with a negative slant to it. So we need to increase the exposure to positive things and positive.
Yeah.
And I think we all have to kind of be a part of that solution. So. And figure out ways to stay connected. I mean, we at the office, we're trying to practice physical distancing, but you know what? We wanted to have lunch together. So we spread out across our big parking lot and had lunch and just communicated and interacted. But, it's just finding ways to kind of stay connected, I think, is really important.
Well, thank you for being with me this morning and sharing what Life and Purpose is doing to help create more structure and support for our community. And remind us one more time of that number that people can call in order to get that virtual walk-in clinic.
Yeah, 740-376-0930. And we also have started a Facebook page, Life and Purpose Behavioral Health. So it'll include kind of educational stuff. It'll include stuff that we're doing at the office and information of events and things like that. So I encourage everybody who's listening to this radio show to go to that page and like it and share it, and because we can get the message out to more people that way. And so but we appreciate everyone, and I appreciate you having me on, and so thank you.
Well, stay healthy, stay safe out there, Washington County. You've been listening to your local radio station, WMOA. This is Hilles Hughes and Doug Pfeifer for the 11th hour, signing off. Be safe.